I never know what to say at the end. But like, this is great. I like it. Yeah, you should try it. It's good. Try it. I don't know. Go do it yourself and let me know if you like it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Croatian Kitchen. Today I have for you 4 potato sides. Potatoes are very important to Croatian cuisine. Basically every meal that you get served will have a potato with it. And so I thought it would be important to take an episode and just go over the 4 most common sides. Before I go into what sides we are going to do, I just want to go over our potatoes first. Here in Croatia, we only recognize 2 kinds of potatoes, white potatoes and red potatoes. And the 2 potatoes are differentiated by their starch content. White potatoes are going to be starchier, so these will be better for mashed potatoes, French fries, putting them into a soup or a stew. Like when we did the Vinsky goulash episode, we used a starchy potato, and that really helped thicken up our stew. On the other hand, our red potatoes are waxier, and this is good for anything that you want the potato to keep its shape. So something like a salad or gratinade potatoes. The 4 recipes I have for you today are mashed potatoes, pan-fried potatoes, potato salad, and Swiss chard with potatoes. So let's get started. For our mashed potatoes, I have gone ahead and cut our white potatoes into cubes of roughly equal size. The reason we cut these into roughly equal size is so that they cook at about the same time. And we go ahead and add them into our water. And we'll set it onto the stove. Once it comes up to a boil, turn the heat down and add some water. When we cube the potatoes, they should cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. To ensure that they're done, take a toothpick and poke it through, and if it goes through without resistance, then you'll know that they are finished. With the potatoes done, we will drain. And then immediately shake through. Shake the potatoes to get as much water off, and immediately put them back into the same pot. The sink is clean. And we're going to put it on the stove again on high heat. So what we do now is we're trying to get as much water out of these potatoes as possible. So leave it on high heat and just stir constantly to make sure the potatoes that are in contact with the bottom of the pan are constantly changing. You'll know that you've gotten as much water out as you will if you push away and you see there's a skin you can't really get rid of. Once that's the case, we'll turn off the heat and it's time to mash. We'll take our potato masher and start mashing. Alternatively, you could use a vegetable ricer. However, the Croatian way is to ensure that there are little chunks of potatoes left in the mash. And if you use a vegetable ricer, everything will be uniform and you won't have some of the bigger pieces in your mashed potato. After mashing, you can add in your fat and stir to make very creamy mashed potatoes. However, mashed potatoes are the perfect jumping off point for a plethora of other sides. We're going to go over restani krumpir, or the pan-fried mashed potatoes, but you can also use these to make knedle, which are going to be potato dumplings. In Croatia, they're specifically sweet, so you have a piece of fruit on the inside. You can also use these to make gnocchi, which we'll go over in a future episode. Since we're going to be using these for restani krumpir, we're going to take a bowl and a spoon, and I'm going to add about half of the potatoes into this bowl to save them for our restani krumpir. So with the leftover mashed potatoes that we're going to be using for our mashed potatoes, it's time to add in our fat. I'm going to use butter, but you can also use olive oil. Olive oil would be a very Dalmatian way to make mashed potatoes. However, I really like butter, so we're going to go with butter. We're going to take the butter and go cut piece by piece and just add into our mashed potato and stir together using the residual heat to melt the butter into the mash. Continue adding butter until you've reached your desired consistency. And you know you have enough butter once it turns yellow and it forms a nice mass in your pot. After you've added in your butter, now if you want to add in any herbs, maybe parsley, thyme, oregano, whichever ones you like, now is the time to do so. However, I'm going to leave it plain. You want to just quickly test for seasoning. These are good, but if you think that they need some more salt, or you want to add some pepper, now would be the time to do so. And we'll give our taste for Greg. Nice big spoonful. It is incredibly creamy, almost melt in your mouth. We still get some of the chunks of potatoes to really give a nice contrast in texture. Overall, an amazing dish. So now that we've let the mashed potatoes set and dry out, it's time to make the restani krumpir. I let these sit for maybe about an hour. However, longer is always better. When you're making something with mashed potatoes, you want to ensure that they are dry because any sort of water that's left in there can negatively impact whatever it is you're trying to do. In this case, we're frying, and if we have water, we won't get anything to stick and get nice and crispy. For the restani krumpir, I've also gone ahead and chopped up an onion as well as minced 2 cloves of garlic. With everything set here, we can head on over to the stove where we will fry our potatoes. So over here on the stove, I've gone ahead and set about 2 tablespoons of lard into our pan, and it is starting to melt. Of course, if you don't want to use lard, you can go ahead and use butter or an oil of your choice. However, I like lard, and it is more traditional. So once our lard heats up, it still hasn't quite gotten there yet. Once it heats up, we'll go ahead and add in first our onions, and we want to fry them till they get nice and golden brown, as well as the garlic. Don't add the garlic in right away because we don't want to burn it, but you still want to add it in more than a minute before everything is done because we want this to fry up as well. Once everything is up to temp, we'll go and add in our onions. Let everything fry up until it gets nice and golden brown. See, it's starting to brown here around the edges. And some of the pieces of onion itself are. So we'll just go ahead and throw our garlic in now. Stir it all together. And let everything come to a nice golden brown. Make sure to regulate the heat though so that nothing is burning. And once everything has reached a nice golden brown, time to add in our potatoes. Just go right on in there. And what we want to do is mix everything up together. That way, the onions and the garlic mix with the potatoes so they're not going to be down at the bottom of the pan getting burnt. At this point, you might need to add more fat as the potatoes will start to absorb what you have in there. So if necessary, just go and add a little bit more in. Let the fat melt. And the potatoes start to absorb the fat. And once that's done, you bring everything into a little patty, almost, and press it down onto the bottom of the pan, as such, and let it sit. So we're letting everything sit because we do want stuff to start to stick to the pan. These really crispy parts that we're going to later scrape up and then mix together with the softer part of the mashed potatoes is that texture that we're going for here with the restani krumpir. So once you see smoke starting to come up from the side, you know it's time to not flip, but start to mix everything up together. So we'll go with the front of our spoon and scrape everything down and try to turn everything over. So what was on the top turns into the bottom. And once everything is scraped up and mixed together, we'll go and make our little patty once more and let this cook again until we can see the smoke coming up. You want to do this maybe 3 to 4 times until everything looks nice and crispy, but it still retains the softness of a mashed potato. And after we have served our restani krumpir, it's time to take our taste for Greg. So I get a good amount, but the lard really does a lot there. So much flavor into the potatoes, and then the onion and the garlic are nice and crispy as well. And then those bits of the potato that come in there at the end for a nice little crunch. This is an amazing potato dish. For the potato salad, we're going to cook our potatoes whole, and this way it'll be easier to cut them into the rounds once they are done. I've already gone ahead and rinsed our potatoes under cold water to remove most of the dirt, and we'll just take them and add them into our pot, which has been filled also with cold water. And we're going to go and put this onto the stove. Once it comes up to a boil, we'll salt our water. You can't salt a stainless steel pot before it comes up to a boil at risk of causing pitting corrosion. And then we'll turn the heat down and let it cook for about 30 to 40 minutes. You'll know the potatoes are done if you can take a knife or a toothpick, put it in through the center, and if it goes in without resistance, it is finished. So while our potatoes are continuing to cool, we'll make the other part of our salad. So the potato salad has potatoes and onions. 2 onions now because the other onion unfortunately went bad.
Oh, that's not good.
So we'll just slice these onions and we'll toss into our bowl. Once our potatoes are cold enough to handle, we'll start to peel them. Just basically take a small knife and we'll just rub across the skin, and you'll see the skin flakes off very, very easily. And we just want to peel off the skin. Don't want to get any of the potato flesh, or at least as little as possible. And once our potatoes are peeled, we're going to go and slice them into, once again, thin strips, just like we did with the onion. If it breaks apart a little bit, that is okay. Just means I may have overcooked it just a little bit, but it's okay. And once all the potatoes are cut, we'll add them directly into our salad bowl. And we'll toss with copious amounts of olive oil.
Dear God.
No such thing as too much olive oil. Some apple cider vinegar, but you could use red or white wine if you'd like. Pepper. And there is salt somewhere, but I think Joey has stolen it. Oh, I see where it is. And after the salad is all tossed together, we will serve. Try to get everything in there, all the potatoes on the onions right there, set aside, and we'll give it our taste for Greg. Through the potato and the onion as well. Here we go. I especially love the contrast between the crunchiness of the raw onion and the nice melty in your mouth, the smooth creaminess of the potato. This is the perfect salad to serve with any meal, especially on a nice summer day, even though it's fall now, but it'll come summer again. Blitve sa krumpierom. This is probably my favorite side. My grandma used to make it all the time. Every Monday, we could go to her house and she would always have chicken and blitve. Now, blitve, or Swiss chard, can be used with everything. Most commonly, it is served with fish on the coast, but like with my grandma, you can serve it with chicken, you can serve it with any meal. You want a nice leafy green side, you can use blitve. And of course, it comes with potatoes, so I will first cut our potato into smaller chunks than we used for the mashed potatoes. And the reason we're going to be using white potatoes, the starchy potatoes, with our blitve is that we want it to start to crumble apart in the dish. So a waxy potato will tend to keep its shape, and the starchy potato will start to break apart. And this break apart is what we're going for in this dish. So we gone ahead and put the potatoes into our pot, of course, with cold water, and it's time to turn our attention to the Swiss chard. Swiss chard can be very dirty, so it's important to rinse thoroughly under cold water and remove any signs of dirt. So Swiss chard has two main parts. It has the stem and the leaf. The leaf will cook like any other leafy green vegetable, like spinach, and I'm often finding myself subbing blitve for spinach. The stem is a little tougher, so it needs a little bit more love. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut the stem off first and set it aside, and the leaf we'll leave for later. And once you have removed the stems from the leaves, gather up your stems, and we're just going to chop off the very bottom part of the stems. So you see they're usually very dirty. And with the edge of the stems chopped off, we'll gather everything up into a nice line, and we'll chop up into small pieces, very similar to chopping an onion. And with everything chopped up, we'll go and just add directly into our pot of water. Go ahead and put this on the stove, let it come up to a boil and cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until the potatoes are tender. And so while the stems and potatoes are cooking, I gathered all the leaves here into a pile, and we'll just do one chop down the center to make them a little smaller. Yes, they do cook down. However, this is a large leaf, and you don't want to be eating the entire thing in one bite. So we'll just hold our leaves here and go straight down the center. And we'll wait for the potatoes to be finished before we add in our blitva. So I've gone ahead and tested the potatoes here for the blitva, and they are ready. So we'll go ahead and add in our leaves, just all at once, directly into the pot. And we'll let this boil down for about 2 to 3 more minutes, or until the blitva looks wilted. As you can see, the blitva has started to wilt, so we'll cut the heat, and then we'll go and pour everything through the strainer. After we've let the blitva sit for a little bit and let all the water come out, and a lot of water does come out, it's time to serve. Just take everything, we'll put it all into the one pot, right into here, partially because it's just Joey and I, but also because now that everything is in this bowl, we'll dress with some olive oil and some salt and pepper, and toss everything together. And now let's take our taste for Greg. Get as much as we can, the leaf, some of the potato too, and let's see if I can get some stem as well. Where'd the potato go? Well, the potato is falling apart exactly like we wanted it to, which is good to see. There is nothing better than this as a side, and maybe it's just because this reminds me so much of when my grandma would make it. But blitva, I don't think there's any better leafy green than blitva, and served with potatoes, with anything, it just complements the meal. And there we have blitva sa krumpiro, and there we have salato od krumpira. Here we have restani krumpir. There we have pire, or mashed potatoes. Dobar tek, dobar tek, dobar tek, dobar tek. The 4 recipes I have for you today are mashed potatoes, pan-fried tomatoes, both tomatoes. These are actually tomatoes, if you didn't know. They're just, actually, it's cake.
Wait, is it cake?
It's
I didn't do it.
Is it cake? It's not cake.